Welcome to AP World History. This is Chapter 18. We'll be looking at Russian history roughly from the 9th century to the 19th century. We'll go in depth more at a later time, but this sort of gives us a thumbnail sketch of what Russia was like. The topography of Russia is one that's very diverse. In the western area is really the breadbasket, the area around the Black Sea, what now is called the Ukraine area. From the rural mountains to the east, going to the Pacific, this is considered Siberia, very inhospitable problem for people living there, very cold, very short growing season. It does have extensive timberland. As you can see in the map, most of the rivers run to the north, which are frozen a good deal of the time. One of the several things that we'll look at is some of the themes that were associated with Russian history. One, expansion of the empire was done by force. There was always a need for a warm water port or ports. And this is something that the Russian elites, the rulers, will always be seeking. And one of the characteristics also as time progresses is a stronger central government, absolute monarchy. The city of Kiev is probably where we start. Rurik, the legendary Rurik, Novgorod, the new city. The Rurik dynasty lasts for about 700 years. Oleg moved the capital to Kiev in 882 CE. Vladimir I, who is his predecessor, will rule for about 35 years, and he will adopt the Christian faith. He will bring Christianity, the Orthodox Church from the Byzantine Empire, and incorporate that into the Russian culture. Vladimir I married Anna, sister of Basil II, the Byzantine Empire. As he was investigating the different kinds of religions that would help him rule, he decided on the Eastern Orthodox Church simply because that would put him in control and he wouldn't necessarily have to compete with anyone. If he accepted Catholicism, he would be competing with the Pope. Vladimir I, Rurik, a descendant, brings the Eastern Orthodox Church, and you can still see its influence in Russia today, and in terms of churches and the church. This map shows what Russia looked like early on, and you can see Kiev, and then later this will be burnt to the ground, and Moscow will become the capital of Russia during the Mongol period. To the south, you can see the Byzantine Empire, Constantinople, and Constantinople will have an influence in particularly the religion. And so the Eastern Orthodox Church is going to be partners with the czars, the rulers of Russia, and help them rule. The Mongols, who come in about the middle of the 13th century, 1259, Batu, the Golden Horde, will sweep across the steppes of Russia, and because the Russian principalities are so fragmented, the Mongols receive some resistance, but they're able to subdue the Russians. And the Russians will come under their control for about 200 years. They are called the Tartars by the Russian people, the Mongols, and those who resist the cities are completely destroyed. By 1400s, Mongols are driven out, and the bondage is broken. Moscow had already become the center of the power for the Tsars in Russia. The Mongol influence dominated Russian thinking and customs, and during their contact with the Mongols, the Russians seemed to be somewhat isolated from the rest of Western Europe. Uh, Ivan the First, Ivan the Moneybag, paid tribute to the Mongols. One of the reasons for this nickname is he was extracting taxes to pay the Mongols, and also keeping a portion out for himself. By paying tribute to the Mongols, he won favor with the Khan, and persuaded the Mongols or the Tartars to stop invading and that they live in peace, and they would swear their loyalty to the Mongols or the Tartars, and they would pay tribute. Ivan III, or Ivan the Great, will seize power in 1462 CE. Under his leadership, he will call Russia the Third Rome, and he will want to expand Russian territory by force. Ivan the Fourth, or Ivan the Terrible, will be the next Tsar. It's reported that he killed his own son. He killed those people who stood against him. Was a very ruthless leader. Centralized the government. The boyars, who were the Russian nobles, he brought under close scrutiny and control. Ivan the Third, 1462, again shows into 1505, often called the Great. And anyway, he will proceed. He will come before Ivan the Fourth, and his job will be to the unification of Russian lands. He will marry Sophia, the last niece of the Byzantine Empire. The Tsar actually is another way of saying Caesar, and this comes from the Roman influence. Ivan the Great, again shown here, tearing the Great Khan's letter requesting more tribute in 1480. So they're going to win more independence from the Mongols and drive them out. The Tsarist Russia, first to formally take the title of Tsar, is Ivan the Fourth, or Ivan the Terrible. Again, he reduced the power of the boyar or the nobility. Again, expanded Russian territory. This is a very aristocratic Russia. This shows a picture of the boyars or the nobility, advisors to the king, having their own land estates, and power and taxing the serfs. Somewhat like a feudal system that we find in Europe during the Dark Ages. This was what Russia looked as late as the 1500s, and you can see that it's interested in attacking Sweden and Poland, Lithuania. Ivan the Fourth dies without a legitimate heir to the throne, and there's going to be a lot of infighting by various princes, a part of the boyars, to contribute to the problems. They had famine during this time, civil war, the boyars fighting among themselves to see who would claim the throne, and also the threat of Poland and Sweden attacking them. In 1613, ended the time of the Terribles, or the Troubles, and Mikhail Romanov is going to come, and the Romanovs are going to rule for 300 years, right up until towards the end of World War I. Michael Romanov starts the Romanov dynasty. This shows their crest, and they will be the ruling family until 1917, when the Tsar is overthrown and killed, and the communists take over Russia and sue for peace with Germany. This shows the line of succession in terms of the Romanov emperors: Peter I, Catherine II, Nicholas I, Alexander II, Alexander III, and Nicholas II. So you're going to need to know this. Perhaps Peter I and Catherine II, Peter the Great, Catherine, perhaps, but know this, that the Romanovs are going to rule for about 300 years. And we're going to stop here and then pick this up on part 2 next time. Until then,